Ho ho boardies, welcome to Borderline Games. I am Gareth and this is the Chrono Jotter episode 24. Last time, we saw Anne and Rand's relationship begin. You know, the usual stuff. Meeting Rand's parents, Miho and Aya, walking along the beach, stargazing. And then we hard cut to Rand being attacked by an animated ball of hair with teeth, which bit her arm clean off. It's quite shocking. And because of course, Anne is an alien. Should have mentioned that. She used her connections to get in touch with a witch doctor to regrow Rand's arm, which that has happened. Though she's holding a lot. Is that how she normally stands? Isn't that interesting? Okay. So, with Rand's arm regrown back, Anne decides to hide her away somewhere in this secluded area by this school, which apparently has an item in it to help prolong life that was put there by her great-grandfather. Also, this school looks suspiciously like the one we know and love from the first half of the game. I think I've caught you up. Welcome to Chrono Jotter, everybody. Okay. I wonder if Granny would cry when I passed away. She didn't seem to like me much. She'd intentionally interrupt me whenever I started talking. I think she's mad that her beloved granddaughter got seduced by such a gloomy and untrustworthy character as yourself. I didn't, though. Ran lowered her head and hugged my arm. Ever since the arm severing incident, Rand's personality had changed slightly. We'd already been quite physically intimate before that, of course, but Rand was still insistent on playing hard to get, verbally at least. Now it seemed she'd constantly hoped for attention from me, and sought for me to share more and more of my emotions with her. Of course, I wouldn't begrudge her any of the intimacy she sought. We had so little time left together that there was no point to wasting any of it. I'd use it all as well as I could, and keep it close to my heart. Let's go. LFG gamers. The lock to the school gate had long since broken, and I easily pushed the door open. The main entrance was covered with dust. The wooden shoe cabinets were in shambles, and looked as though they'd crumble at a single touch. After that, a left turn brought us to a long wooden hallway, which we recognise. I raised my hand and touched the wall, feeling the roughness of the texture throughout my fingertips. Ran, you smell that? I quite like the smell of this kind of wood. Yeah, I was expecting to smell like rotten decay. I hadn't expected it to smell this nice. I know, right? My mood improved a little, and I pulled Ran into a hug. What's the matter? Nothing. I just really wanted to give you a hug. Ran raised her arm and embraced my shoulder as well. She was growing quickly. Since the day we'd met, she'd already grown a whole head taller than me. I pressed my head to her neck, hearing the gentle pulse of Ran's heartbeat. Ran, you've got to promise me that you'll live a long and happy life, okay? Of course. We'll live on happily together. I nodded and broke the embrace. We passed through the hallway and came to a broken stairwell. In the recalls, I'd seen that the object had been stored in a secret compartment, I see, right next to the stairwell. But that had been over 50 years ago. Hopefully nobody had removed it since then. Oh yeah, we were like stuck in something, weren't we? At the very beginning of the game. That's weird. Okay. Kneeling with one leg, I searched the floor and soon discovered the switch. Immediately after, I was met by a cloud of dust. As I coughed, I swept the dust aside. It ought to be right down here. Originally, the school building's plans had mandated that there would only be one storage room on every floor. Afterwards, the students had felt it was inconvenient, so they dug out an additional underground storage room next to the stairs. I reached out and easily found the box I'd seen in the recall. Anne, let me. Ran carried the box I indicated out and placed it in the corridor. After that, she bent over and used a penknife to cut through the transparent taping binding the box. After opening up the cardboard, we found all sorts of old stationery supplies lying inside. And there, lying under a protractor, was a notebook with a scarlet cover. Ah, okay. This is the notebook. I've found it. I reached out and took the notebook. Not a single speck of dust stained it. The pages were perfectly white as though they were new. Is that what we've been looking for? Yep. With it, all of our problems can be solved now. Come with me. Before I'd come here, I hadn't told Ran what I wanted the notebook for, and she didn't know that my great grandfather was. Hang on, Jesus Christ, Gareth. And she didn't know that my great grandfather was right now stored within the notebook. That was the method he'd found for extending his lifespan. From the moment I'd laid my hands on the notebook, he'd begun speaking to me. He said that he could use the notebook to engage in recall and thus experience the lives of many people. His reason for wanting to live was so that he could go to many more places in the world and see many more things. Stored in this eternally pristine notebook, he could tour this world forever and even meet me, his great-granddaughter. And what's the notebook able to do? If I open my mouth now, my great-grandfather in the notebook would surely hear. But it didn't matter. There was nothing he could do about it anyway. I've been thinking for a long time why none of the beloved children have become the new mother. Up until now. It must be because none of them were capable of casting their vision over the entire world the way that the mother could, instead of focusing on mere individuals. I'm not sure I follow. It's okay, you don't need to. Just listen to me. Besides that, the mother clearly doesn't want a non-human life form to become a successor. This is simple to understand, isn't it? Ran nodded. Her grip on me strengthening slightly. In the end, if you still can't escape the position of the beloved child, then I'll need to protect you the whole time, so that you can live a full and complete life. But I won't be able to, because I'm about to lose my power of recall, not to mention my lifespan itself won't permit me to accompany you the whole time. The notebook can solve all these problems. My great-grandfather seemed to have figured out what I was planning to do. He screamed into the depths of my brain, ordering me to put him back where I found him. I still don't get how to use the notebook, though. You don't need to worry. Just leave it to me, Ran. I found an iron barrel in the garbage pile, and dragged it out to the lawn outside the schoolhouse, where I raised it above the ground by setting it upon some stones. The barrel was quite tall. I wouldn't have to worry about any sparks leaping out of the barrel that way. My great-grandfather's shouting turned into weeping. He began to plead with me, telling me that he didn't want to die. Me neither. I said to him quietly, before tossing the notebook into the metal drum, lighting a match, and setting the notebook on fire. Anne, relax. The notebook won't be damaged by the fire. The temperature of the barrel gradually rose, and hot air emanated from it. For some reason, I started feeling like I couldn't breathe. I thought I'd already resolved myself before this, but to find my determination again, I looked up towards Ran, who was watching the flames. Her eyes reflected the bright orange light, but her expression was full of confusion. I couldn't tell her what I was planning to do until I was about to do it. She'd never go along with it otherwise. I waited until the terrible screaming, echoing in my mind, had fully faded before I poured a bucket of water into the barrel. Then I raised myself to my tiptoes to look at the notebook. It was completely unharmed. In fact, not a single drop of water had even clung to its pages. Taking it out, I found that it had actually gotten a bit thicker than it had previously been. Apparently my great-grandfather had ripped a few pages out at some point. Wow, that's incredible, Anne. So what is it exactly? It's a container, Anne. It's a container that can hold absolutely anything. The most secure lockbox in the whole universe. I gently stroked the cover. Its uneven texture reminded me of the walls of the old schoolhouse. It can even contain a soul. I took out the knife that I'd prepared. Then I took Ran's hand and lightly cut open all the fingertips of her right hand. Ran was very calm and didn't resist at all. It's a little extravagant to use such a large knife just to make a few shallow cuts on her fingertips. Hopefully Ran won't get suspicious. Crimson blood began seeping out, and I quickly flipped to an empty page in the notebook and placed her hand onto it, letting her blood stain the pages. It worked exactly the way I'd seen it work in the recalls, just as I expected. So did Anne. Did Anne kill Ran at the end of the last chapter in order to put the rest of her soul into the notebook to save her somehow? The newly cleared notebook needed to confirm its new owner before it could have something stored within it. The blood seeping from Ran's fingertips wasn't absorbed by the pages, but rather quickly congealed onto it, forming a bloody mark. Oh, it didn't actually get absorbed. There. The notebook belongs to you now. Okay. And then? Well, what comes next is... I suddenly felt a tear flow down my face. Ran panicked a little and immediately reached to help wipe my face. Anne? Perhaps I'd overestimated my own resolve. But I didn't want to leave her just yet. I wanted to hug her again. Why would this mean that she goes? I don't know. Ran, I don't want to. There wasn't any more need for any testing anymore. The feelings I felt for her clearly couldn't have anything to do with her being the beloved child. I just wanted to keep holding her hand and stay with her. It's fine. I'm okay. Don't worry. I gave Ran a smile, and my tears obediently stopped disrupting my emotions. Ran, listen to me calmly. After this, I'm going to enter the notebook, and by placing your finger on the notebook as a signal, you'll be able to trigger it to activate my recall ability. There'll be a lot of limitations, but this way you'll possess a power that only non-humans can possess. But... Shush. Keep listening. The notebook will never be damaged. Even in here, I'll be able to keep talking to you. It'll be like I'm keeping you company forever. Talk to me, but... that solves 2 of the 3 problems we just spoke of. Finally, I need you to never concern yourself with this world. But as the beloved child, who's bound to come into contact with the supernatural, I imagine you won't be able to help yourself and will try to do something anyway. So I'm going to help you out by concentrating all of your attention onto a single small focused point forever. I sat down on the ground and opened the notebook to a blank page. Ran, don't be sad. I'll always be by your side. I turned the handle of the knife and used the blade to cut open my own neck. Jesus Christ. It hurts much more than I was expecting it to hurt. Anne, what are you doing? Ran kneeled in front of me, grabbing onto me and trying to stop me, but I used my left hand to seize her wrist. I have to do this. I used every bit of strength I had to push the blade of my knife deeper into my neck, but at the same time, using force meant that my muscles would tense as well, and cutting them open hurt so much it made me cry. But the blood ceaselessly flowed from my arteries and were instantly absorbed when they came in contact with the pages of the notebook, and even the blood that had spilled into the lawn was pulled towards the notebook as though by gravity. Seeing this gave me a measure of peace. Anne, don't! I'm begging you, stop! I can live together with you even if you can't protect me forever. As long as we can be together, it'll be okay. I'm begging you, don't leave me. I want to be with you. Miss Sakura, please. blood flowed quickly. I wanted to say something, but found I didn't have the strength for it anymore. I forced myself to smile, trying to reassure her. Miss Sakura, what'll I do without you? I'd always liked that particular form of address, when Ran only used when she was mentally unsteady and pleading with me. The her that was calling out to me like that was truly extremely adorable. A bit patronising and a bit gross, considering that she's, like, struggling. I can't bear it, Miss Sakura. There's no way I could... The hand that I'd pressed to her face trembled, and I greedily immersed myself in the sensation of that last bit of warmth. Don't, Miss Sakura, Ranabuki, oh my beloved. Miss Sakura, Anne! The darkness before my eyes grew more and more severe, and I found that I could no longer make Ran's voice out clearly. It felt like there was something far away, pulling me, making me come closer to it. That was probably the notebook, right? That was good. Once I died, Ran couldn't possibly concern herself with the world, or whatever. She'd only focus on me. Definitely, for sure. Jesus. Good night. See you tomorrow, Ran. Truly. I love you. Bizarre. Go to Anne Sakura of this school? Or go to Anne Sakura in your notebook? Oh wow, okay. Let's save here. Because I definitely want to come back to this. Let's go to the one of this school first. Anne. I sat up from the metal-framed bed, the memories in my mind fully clarified, freed of the mists that had shrouded them. Tears rolled down my face. As I shook my head, I turned my trembling body towards the stand next to the metal-framed bed, where the notebook was resting. Anne was already dead. I've been travelling the world for the last 4 years, for the sake of reviving her. Merely in the hopes of finding any sort of anomaly that had anything to do with reviving the dead. But this attempt had also been a failure. The Anne here wasn't my beloved. I hugged the notebook to my bosom, my tears falling on its cover with splashing sounds, making it seem as though the notebook itself were crying as well. Even though I remained the beloved child of the mother of humanity, Anne had still achieved 2 of her goals. Not only was she always protecting me, but she'd always kept me eternal company. But I still wish I could embrace you. I crossed my arms and gripped my shoulders tightly and lowered my head, curling in on myself. The notebook tugged into my chest, bending slightly. The sounds of my weeping echoed in the empty morgue. I struggled to calm myself, wanting to leave before the rest of them came to find me. Sniffling, I rose from the bed and unfolded the folded uniform next to me. Not only was there no blood on it, but even the hole the knife had left in, it was restored. I saw my phone off to the side and reached out to turn it on. The photo nearly made me start crying again, and I quickly tapped past and entered the address book to send a text to Anne. So be it then. I put on my uniform, left the morgue, and headed back to the resort that Miss Sakura and I had once checked into. Anne looked like she didn't quite know how to react to me. Probably because I hadn't immediately pounced on her the way I always did before. Ran, what's wrong? As soon as she spoke, my longing for Miss Sakura redoubled itself again, and I had to raise my hands to cover my mouth, to keep myself from crying out loud. Recovering my memories had stripped the last vestiges of my ability to suppress my longing for Anne from me. I bit my lower lip to control my feelings. Anne, on the other hand, clenched her hands tightly together, resting them on her thighs as she pointed the tips of her toes together, all of which were completely different habits from the ones held by the true Anne. I want to say some things to you. Maybe you won't understand, but I hope you'll listen to me. Anne nodded, staring at me attentively, another expression that the real her would never have shown. I furrowed my brows tightly to keep the tears from flowing out, and began to speak. After you killed me, I managed to regain most of my memories. The real Anne is already dead. Anne seemed rather calm after she heard me say that. She didn't ask me what exactly she meant by that, or who the person sitting in front of me was in that case. She'd always liked to mess with me, toying with me or jerking me around, and she was a little selfish too. For the sake of doing what she wanted, she could disregard the wishes of pretty much everybody who wasn't me, and I often couldn't figure out what she was thinking. But she truly loved me, and I her. I bit my lip again, but it was of no use. The tears had already spilled. You're good to me, as well, more gentle and kind, and also ready to make some sacrifices for my sake like her, and you're still alive. Perhaps you are the perfect Anne Sakura who existed only in my heart. But the Anne I love became one with the notebook for the sake of protecting me, and though I could hear her speaking to me at first, in a state of unbearable suffering immediately after her suicide, I couldn't bear something like that. So I ate a massive amount of paper from the notebook, as though doing something like that would help Anne come out of the notebook at the least. It helped stabilise me psychologically. And the result was that Anne from the notebook slowly began to lose herself, becoming a consciousness that retained only her memories, and which existed purely for the sake of protecting Ranabuki. And the result was that the Anne from the notebook slowly began to lose herself, becoming a consciousness that retained only her memories, and which existed purely for the sake of protecting Ranabuki. But that's all secondary. No matter what the cause, as long as Anne isn't by my side, I have to keep looking for her. Even if she's already gone. I did my best to express a determined attitude, speaking those pre-planned lines like I'd actually found any sort of resolve, but it couldn't stop the tears. I'd always been a weak and fragile person, and right there in front of me there was a blood and flesh Anne. She had warmth, and could embrace me, could stroke my hair and kiss me. So how could I? I want to stay here so much. I sank to the floor, raising a hand and gripping tightly to Anne's wrist. I miss you so much, Anne. I want to be with you. I've suffered so much just to make it as long as I have. You're the closest I've seen in the whole last 4 years, the person who seems most like Anne. You won't suddenly collapse into a puddle of fleshy sludge or wear Anne's face only to speak with a nauseating voice. You can speak and you're capable of loving me. I want to stay here and be with you, Anne. But I can't. But please, I'm begging you, let me give up on you. Let me leave and keep searching for a way to revive Anne. Even if you have to, turn into a monster right now or something. I'm begging you, Miss Sakura. I can't keep staying here. I felt her bend over and embrace me. She embraced me so tightly, just like the final time that Anne embraced me as well. I'm sure that the Anne was very happy to have received such love from you. If it were possible, I wish I could become the Anne that you could carry in your heart for you. But I can't do something like that because I have my own life as well. I do not want to become a replacement product or turn into a paltry imitation of anybody else. Anne spoke with a bit of a hitch in her own voice as well. I gently pushed her away and we looked each other in the eyes. The first time I saw you, I felt like I couldn't leave you to your own devices because you needed someone to take care of you so desperately. And you held such strong feelings for me that I felt like I wanted to respond to you somehow. But I never expected that you didn't actually need anyone else to care for you. What you needed was Anne Sakura, but that wasn't me. And I can't deceive you by disguising myself as Anne for your sake. I'm sorry, Ran. I can't fall in love with you. Anne wiped my tears away, and I did the same as well, wiping away tears on her face with a finger. It was almost inconceivable how such a simple motion was able to calm me down entirely, leaving only the single tear that was sliding down Anne's finger to the back of her hand. Okay. I think that's going to be another episode of Borderline Games. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time, where we'll be looking at possibly the finale of the Chrono Jotter next time on Borderline Games. Have a good evening, and I'll speak to you later. Bye bye.